wanted to make a quick video. I mention that a lot. Very rarely is it, it's always honest, but very rarely is it accurate of the outcome. This one is accurate because I'm already doing it. There's a lot that I could talk about in regards to this, but you don't have to. Main idea is basically fasting, intermittent fasting, short fasting, and moderate fasting in terms of juice fasting. Water fasting is full fasting pretty much. People say dry fasting is full, fasting, but water fasting is pretty much, at least in my opinion, right there with dry fasting. Although they're not the same. That dry fasting is a little bit different than water fasting. Although it's dangerous if your kidneys are not healthy or if your body's very toxic, which is part of extended information about fasting, that if you have not fasted or if you eat a lot of junk food, basically, that fasting is a potent and healthy way to reduce toxins. But this means if you have many toxins, you'll get the Herxheimer effect, and as well it could be dangerous because your body's not going to be used to breaking down the fat cells, adipose tissue, and then releasing those toxins that are stored in the tissues and basically poisoning itself automatically. And so that's dangerous in that regard. It's like, it's a good thing. It's too much of a good thing in a way that makes that happen. And so we kind of have to play with that balance, especially if there's a person who has not had that good thing, and then they do that all at once, and they get this kind of rebound effect, this contrast, whereby the tissues break down and the organs are stressed because your system, your detoxification systems, the excretion, sweat, and digestion, your liver, your kidneys, everything's breaking something down. And so when you add all of those toxins, you're stressing all those systems. And so it's dangerous. And even your brain will notice that effect. It's like withdrawal or something. I haven't really had too much of that effect because I never really got into too much junk food except as a kid, or a child, where I was just basically, I never really wanted to eat just what was there, but we were forced to. You don't really have a choice. And a little bit later on, when I could vocalize what I wanted and why, not just that I wanted something else, like candy or something, but I wanted a different type of meal. I wasn't like chained down to a plate of chicken wings, which aren't too bad, but say something like I don't know. I'm trying to think of something really, really not the best for you. Maybe meatloaf or something. But that's the other thing. Everything, maybe mac and cheese, something like that. You don't want that. But everything can be made, except for maybe mac and cheese, to be basically very fresh, very refined, very fresh, organic, grass-fed, so on. Meat, however, in that sense entirely, will usually build up in the intestines and cause a kind of toxification effect. But someone recently said that some people do require meat because they lack the enzymes to break down plant material and pull out the necessary amino acids. And for some people, I can see that being possible. I could also see it being possible that you can change your system, you can change your biology with intention, although I'm not trying to get into the hippy-dippy stuff, because what if somebody has a condition and you tell them to just wish it away or something? That's probably not going to be helpful, although there are people who have altered their biology by altering their mind and intentions, and you look to these superhumans, these athletes, these meditators, these people who really do that. And in that sense, you can't find them because you have to look for them. They're not out there like, look at me and doing this. They're just some guy over the mountains there, or some guy in Serbia, or somebody you find on a random TV show, and they're investigating him. He never said anything. They found him, and or her, and that's usually what it is. It's usually when you find people like, look at me doing this, they're maybe activating some part of these epigenetics, but it's kind of more of a show at that point. And in that sense, you can do it yourself and not even realize it. And it's not gonna, like, whistles and fireworks aren't gonna go off, but when you realize what's going on, you'll feel that effect within you, whereas like you didn't think that was possible. And as well, you activate that by reducing the activity that is basically this. It's like the metaphor of the biological mundane activity of society in the mind. When we're just eating and casually going around and basically casually working and things like that, it's stressful because the body needs a break, and we're accustomed to a very, very casually stressful, and in that sense, a low activation cycle of intake and output. And so when we reduce to something like a level of fasting, intermittent fasting or even long fasting, we're activating these underlying, these dormant cycles of cleansing and output, or there's these cycles of operation within the body, and this also affects the mind greatly. And when we do that, we find what the body can really do. So I just wanted to make this short one about intermittent fasting, which I've gotten back into lately. And on the diet, well, diet's a bad word, with what I've been eating now in the past few years, which is, the main difference is it's a lot less food and a lot less meat use. I haven't eaten meat in a while, maybe a year, and before that it was a couple of years, and I was like experimenting with it on and off because the injury with I have multiple injuries. One of them has a tendon complication, and so I was experimenting with the various products of influencing that. And really I find that it's about the nutrient level, and your body can heal and assimilate itself, or assimilate the nutrients into itself, depending on how clean it is. It doesn't really have to be about protein or things like that. You know, possibly if you want to get as big as a house. But the trade-off for that is not very, very efficient. And as well, there are people who are fairly big on plant diet, and it's about assimilation of the nutrients. It's about how well your body can assimilate the nutrients. You're not really, converting yourself from the other animal or something like that. It's the nutrients that are in there and the raw energy that's kept within the molecules, basically, that is used. And the energy it's everywhere. And so, but there's different combinations of nutrients. And so you kind of have to be like a maestro with foods, with nutrients, with colors. And they're color coded as well. The darker, the more purple, the green, darker stuff, usually the more energy is there. It's absorbing, from the light, and it's absorbing from the ground, and they're like, everything's color coded. But and at least that kind of goes for vegetables and greens. And there is a bit of a variation in understandings of fruitarian, vegan, and otherwise, where fruitarian is the only food system where you're not killing the organism by staining yourself off of them. And the planet could be set up to be fruitarian, and nothing would die from the presence of humans, literally, except for maybe grass where we walk, and in bugs and things like that, and that's literally it, and microorganisms. And we could just basically share energy from the fruit of the tree, and as well, by the end of the growth cycle, the fruit falls off anyway. When it's ripe enough, you go and you basically jiggle it, and that's a weird motion there, but you jiggle it, and if it's ready, it just falls into your hand. Or wind comes and knocks it down. So it's like, it's a system kind of made for that, and it's color coded. And animals pretty much aren't going to be intelligent enough, at least most of the time, because they don't need to be, to look and analyze when things are color coded. You see them eating unripe fruits all the time, and so it's like something set up for an intelligent system, a way of getting energy without having to kill other things. And And as well, it works that way with some vegetables as well. You know, kale or something like that. You take pieces of the plant and it grows back. But as well, at the end of the season, the plant's most likely going to die. Some of them, and if you keep them good, and if they're not in cold weather, they'll keep growing. They'll like shrink down a little bit, and then like out of the dead growth, like a shoot will come back up, and the next season it'll start all over again. And so you can continuously feed on vegetables as well. You don't have to actually kill them. And so I want to say that as well. Although, you know, say like a carrot or something like that, you kind of have to pull out. But even then, they'll begin to die. They'll die at the end of their growth season. At least I'm pretty sure they will. I know they get kind of overgrown and then swollen, and then they'll try and grow more offshoots and things like that. And as well, you can take onions and carrots and celery and all these plants, and you can bite most of them. And then you put a little bit back in the ground with a slice, you know, at the bottom for roots or something like that, where you put it in a cup and it will sprout again, and you can plant it again. And you can continuously plant. It's like free food. It's like free energy. It's kind of strange, but there are ways to do what we need to do to survive without making it a big bloodbath, a continual war. And so we're not truly in an environment that requires death. But in the mental schematic, the schema of society as it is now, it's a bloodbath. And when it goes out, will only come back to people because it's nearly perfect. And maybe in that perfection, it's a trap because you can't get away. What you do, your footsteps come back to meet you. But it is what it is. It's a fractal mirror, dimensional mirror reflection system. Excuse me. And so the main thing about the fasting is that there seems to be a relationship of the gut, not only the gut flora, which is actually what it might be, the emotions and the intuition in the gut and the immune system. They're connected, at least the immune system, to the gut flora. And so if the gut flora is repopulating from fasting, potentially, then maybe the emotions and the intuition of the gut instinct in someone is connected to the mind of these bacterial agents, basically. And as well, the heart communicates more to the gut in the, there's a word, a terminology of the spine communicating to the nerves. It's not a reflex arc, something similar. Reflex arc is when you touch a hot stove and information travels between your spine, the lumbar, the gray outer region, I believe, and it jumps in a spark of information to your hand and then back to your spine and causes you to pull back, but your brain never gets sent a message like, hey, pull back the hand. It's literally a reflex, and it's an arc that goes back laterally and doesn't go up the spine. By the time it goes to the brain, it's because the brain goes, oh, my hand's over here now, and ow, that hurt. But you don't really realize anything. And that's an automated sense, I guess, to say. It's a parasympathetic. I always mix up the two, sympathetic and parasympathetic. I don't want to look it up right now. Sympathetic is, I believe, when you're doing it. Parasympathetic is across the sympathetic aspect, and therefore is when it's happening to you in a way. It's automated. I'm not sure. I might have switched them up. Biology. And so, but there's something to do with having the intestines deactivated and clean and like shrunk, okay, where you're not like bloated and inflated, and your stomach empty and deactivated and feeling strong emotion. And even to the point where coffee you're not supposed to really have too often, which I don't. Shout out to Serpent Seed, I believe that's his name, on YouTube, where he does a lot of cool videos. Cool. I'm just like making up words while I buy time. And wow. Come on. So maybe that's not his name. Is there no? Come on. guess he's no longer, I mean, he's around, I just can't find him. He makes videos on YouTube and he talks about the fasting and the juicing and things like that. And he brought up a good few points about sacred serpent, not serpent seed. Serpent seed is something else. It's, when you look it up, you'll see that it's sacred serpent is his. But I just have to cut the video. Is his YouTube title, and I even have the video right here. Drinking coffee during a fast, because it was in the health playlist I have. And he does a lot of good videos, especially his cayenne pepper one. He threw for a loop saying the turmeric video, where he's like, everybody says turmeric. Why is it turmeric? It's turmeric. Turmeric with the R. And a lot of us remember turmeric. And I've had conversations with my friends where we're like, oh, I got some turmeric, nice, and put in a cayenne or a curry mix, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden it was like one day it was turmeric. And I was like, who? What? And a lot of people were like, when was this? And it's one of these time effect changes things. But regardless, he talks about the coffee and that you're supposed to sip it, you're not supposed to drink heavy amounts, you're not supposed to add stuff to it, you know, unless it's maybe a little bit of, in my case, almond milk or something. It basically makes it a little bit more palatable, and it won't stain your teeth as much, and it's not as strong. Although, other than that, I will usually drink it pretty dark, if not completely dark, because I used to just make what they call cowboy coffee, where you just put it in a pot and or a hot water, and either use cold water to separate and drop the grains down. Of course, not a 5-minute video again. And use a tea separator or tea strainer to pour it out and simply strain it that way, which is one of the best ways of making coffee. There's the cafetiere, which is the French press, and those are good, but it keeps the grains in it. Now it's a video about coffee. It keeps the grains in it, but when coffee is in the hot water, tannins are released, and tannins make it bitter, and as well they have neurotoxic effects. And so the less time the coffee's in the water and the less heat of the water, the better. But it has to be somewhere around 170, near 200 degrees, but under boiling, to get the best extraction of the caffeine and the alkaloids of the coffee grains from the bean. And there are many alkaloids, and they have not theobromine, that's chocolate, but it's a similar system and a similar response in the brain, where there is I can't think of the brain and neuropeptide response, which is basically similar to something that's in marijuana, where there's a cannabinoid kind of response, and it's kind of like a healing response. But little coffee, sipping throughout, a couple hours, and not enough to really spike your heart or anything. And I have to watch myself. I can't drink. I can't take any stimulants like I used to, sugar and caffeine, and haven't drank soda in the longest time. You shouldn't have soda anyway, because that's just for your bones. I mean, shoot. You can dissolve stuff in sugar. You can dissolve your bones or anything. Look up the Appalachian Mountains, Appalachia, and that documentary, and how they get meth and Mountain Dew out there, and that's it. It's crazy. It's a crazy thing. The coal mines and mines that were there in earlier times, I guess like the 40s up until, I think like the 20s, 30s, and 40s up until like the 60s, and then these big corporations bought everything out. And they used up the mines and stopped hiring people, and so they're just out there living basically off like welfare and things like that. And they're miles and miles away from the rest of civilization, and it never grew into like a big area like these areas in West Virginia and Virginia, which aren't really that big, but in Virginia they're bigger. And so they're deep, deep out there in the mountains, and it's like America forgot about them. Nobody knows they're out there, and they're living in poverty. And there's a high rate of, one of the highest rates of drug use, and like early childbirth, and tooth decay from the soda. Everyone's addicted to soda. It's the craziest thing. It's the epitome of the corporate society taking over humanity, taking over nature, and leaving nothing left, for life. But look up that. And so soda's not cool. And I knew that anyway, but if you see that, it's like a shocker. It's like a punch in the face, like, wow, I could be that. But the point with this is that even this, it was basically up to there. Even that in my stomach, I feel like I ate, like a bag of chips or something. And before that, I still have the connection to what I was feeling before. There's this sense of emotion, there's this sense of calm, there's this sense of serene, a supreme or extreme connection to myself, to my body, and to my life, to memories, to what I feel, to what I care about. There's a sense of emotion to this, to creativity or artistic ability. I don't know what it is, but there's this, it's like soul. It's like there's a connection to soul at that point. Like our soul is in our gut. Our soul is in our chest. And the brain is just like this scalar observer force that, this is like the calculator guys in Osmosis Jones. They're just like planning stuff, but it's really, they don't really do anything. They're just kind of like, we're going to do this, and bureaucracy that way, and then flaunt the military this way, and they don't really have a clue about what's going on or what the right thing to do is. And the force within the population of all these microbes and stuff like that, and the neurons that are out there, there's more neurons down there, and they're more active with the heart and the gut than the brain actually is. It's kind of what is being hinted there, but it means the bureaucracy, the guys up top, they're not really the top. They're just, they think they are. They're the ego, they're the mask. You know, so all these movies describe that, but what they're describing is what your body's describing to you. By you having a gut, and you having these systems, excuse me, I usually fold myself up in strange shapes, especially my lower body. And so, with that little bit, there's a disconnect from these emotions, these intense emotions that I feel that are driving me to experience what I am seeking for expression, for learning, basically like my dreams coming alive within me. And this is the second day of the fast, just about a little bit over second day, because it started the night before the other day, a little bit earlier on. And this is the second, or about the second, third time, maybe fourth time in a good while, in a couple of years or so. And not really a couple of years. I've been doing it intermittently over a couple of years, but this is the first time I've really abstained from even like little snacks here and there. And the other thing is you have to abstain, because if you're starving yourself, that means you're eating little snacks and your stomach and your digestion is actively breaking things down, and that requires energy to break things down. And you can starve yourself that way, where you get hungry, you have to go to the bathroom because you have to push those things out. And if you are not treating yourself properly and fulfilling basically a quota bare minimum of intake for the output, your body goes into a starvation mode. With this way, it's a starvation mode, but I think they call it a catatonic, and that's more so when you're breaking down fats and proteins directly. However, and converting them to energy instead of storing things. However, it's a similar concept where, and as well, it's a similar concept as far as the results of what my body is breaking down. However, it's not that, because I'm not breaking anything down. My body's breaking itself down. And as well, it's not doing the same thing as when one is starving. It shuts off the digestive tract, and it shuts off the storing of reserves, and it basically goes into a shutdown mode, a stasis, and there's energy that is used for a variety of other things, mainly repairing the immune system, repairing the self, and some other stuff, mystical stuff that gives you these mental effects, this kind of mental liberation. And so, but that's also another important thing, that when you, like if I were to snack, by tonight I would probably begin starving, if not by tomorrow, which you can't do. And basically because my body would be like, alright, we're starting back up, the factories start up, and people start driving the cars again, and Osmosis Jones, and everything would start back up, and then there would be no fuel. Okay, and that wouldn't be good. There'd be traffic jams, alright? And so, that, and just to mention enemas, those are very beneficial, and you have to also be sure of what you use with those. Not too much salt. I haven't really used salt pretty much yet. I think I've done it once. You can overdose salt. If you do too many enemas, you can draw too much salt out of your body, dehydrate yourself, and you can also add too much water, which then has the effect of overhydrating and lowering the potassium and sodium levels in the body. Hypercuratia. There's strange words for the potassium and the salt, the higher and the lower. Hypo and hyper, and then the I can't the K1 is for potassium, and then the sodium is, I can't remember. You know, if you've seen any of these ER shows or something, and they'll every once in a while they'll get somebody that's hypo in sodium. I'm not going to look it up. I have to refuse to look it up. And it's also true, you don't want to always look things up. It's like having a map or GPS and forgetting how to use a map, or forgetting how to not even use a map, but forgetting how to get somewhere that you've driven every day because something tells you turn here, turn there. Your brain shuts off when you don't apply effort, and there's no effort applied to just having something tell you what to do. When you have to actually look at the sign and shut it off and remember, and you get that oh crap moment of like, am I going the right way and where it is? That's what kicks on the ability to learn. And yeah. And that even relates to the fasting, where it said that you work better on a slight a hunger rather than being fully satiated. Why I remember in school certain practices of taking tests before lunch, or only having a few short snacks before the test, so that you have some nutrients, but you're kind of waiting for something larger, and your brain is like kind of trying to kickstart everything and make everything get done, and it's weird. Although a lot of that is a joke because they're not really testing people. It's just to remember certain things. But that's what it is about the fasting. There seems to be a great sense of emotion and clarity that comes forth from that, and I wanted to make that available to people. And it's seemingly very, very powerful, and it has to do with all these internal parasites, the mental parasites, starving the parasite. It's all related. Candida and the fungal, parasitic, bacterial infections of the human race is largely in the body, in the digestive tract, in the blood. And that relates to the mental parasite as far as when there's a large percentage of intruders in the body, then the field of who you are, which is this collective emanation of energy, well, that's going to be distorted. You're not going to be as much who you are if there's a bunch of other things in that field distorting it, because they all add up and collectively create this intruder field, now that's in your vibration field, in your mind field, and that can be used to disrupt things. I've been using cranberry juice diluted in water, because I would get like the concentrate extract basically, and you usually don't want concentrates. However, seems to be alright, and as well, very kind of bitter and strong. Too much seems to activate the digestive tract. Just the right amount doesn't seem to activate it. It's basically like it passes through the kidneys and doesn't seem to activate the liver. The liver and the gallbladder and the digestion in the stomach is what, if that's activated, then you got to eat. Otherwise your bowels are going to back up, everything's going to get all weird. But it doesn't seem to activate that, and so I was getting wakefulness, flavor, and a little bit of fullness, but then it wasn't making me hungry. It was just like keeping things going mentally in a way. You don't always want to do that, but there are juice fasts from juices like this to vegetable juicing, which I haven't done in a while, and when I did that, there was a high level of healing with that years ago. You can get like these super healing methods going. There's also vitamin B12 injections, liposomal vitamin C, and certain other supplements that are around that are basically being made very difficult to get because they contain super healing powers. Look at the Gerson therapy. Look at some of these therapies that people found. It's like that you can cure diseases with vitamins, and that's how diseases are cured, but not from supplements in a container, from more natural, direct methods of finding them, and basically alternate methods of getting them into the body in a very concentrated form. Basically getting them past the liver into the blood, or somehow into the system in a concentrated form, which is difficult for a lot of things because your digestion only gets about 10% of what's being eaten. And with the liposomal C, you can wrap the acidic vitamin C in an alkaline fat liposomal cell of, just look it up, there's, not whey protein, that's a milk byproduct, but lecithin, which is also, you can get basically a vegan form of lecithin, which is from, I can't remember what it's from. And there's also I think lecithin is vegan anyway, but there are other versions of, because it's basically fat. It's lecithin is just like the fat, and you can get animal and vegan, but there's sunflower oil and then soy lecithin. Soy lecithin is probably what you do not want to use because you want to usually stay away from soy. But the fat of the plant wraps the vitamin C. You put them both in a blender and then in a jewelry cleaner that uses ultrasonic vibrations to go through the liquid, and it bonds them on a molecular level and wraps the vitamin, and then it will bypass the acid of your stomach and get absorbed into your liver later on, a few hours later, with apparently 98% efficiency, which you can only top with an injection, an IV injection. And that's vitamin C. And I remember when I was doing that every day, skating and working and things like that, I remember if I scraped myself and got a cut, by like day 2 it would begin to almost close up entirely, and sometimes it would take weeks to get like bad cuts, you know, to heal. And literally within a week there would be no sign of anything, which is crazy. I remember looking at it being like, no, it's almost gone now, 3 days later, and my body was assimilating the nutrients and using them. And there are also some other ones, but I'll probably save for another video. I haven't done a supplement video yet. This is the closest thing to it. I'm just trying to stay focused. Pretty much covered everything. The main thing is that fasting seems to collapse the digestive tract, and there's something about the nerves there that when you're not bloated, what it is that your nerves, okay, so this is the belly, the back, you got nerves, the intestines, and all over there, like whatever that means. And when you're bloated, you're not feeling the nerves. When you're not bloated, if anybody's that tiny, one of these very small people, and you literally feel yourself. That's literally what it means. You're feeling yourself. So if you feel a certain way, well, you feel that you feel that way. It's that simple. When you're bloated and there's something in between you, and there's something here, and there's nerves here, and their nerves, your nerves are feeling the food that's there and the other stuff that's in the way, you're not feeling yourself. You're not feeling what you feel. That's the way I perceive it. That's the way I intuitively draw it out and directly see, like, well, clearly that's what it means. And so that seems to be the case. And, you know, it's kind of a little disturbing to see people with distended bellies and things like that, where there's all this buildup. You know, if you've ever seen these fast videos and the trends and the fads that went on about master cleansing and how people poop out these big strings of like this material, this mucus material, which is mucus is the enemy of biology. Is the cause of death or the result of death. That when somebody's all mucusy, you know, what does it mean? Well, they're sick. So if we have mucus all the time, if you're spitting it up, if you're eating and you get a runny nose or something, it means whatever that food is causing a mucus response. It means it's causing an immune response. You're allergic to it. We eat stuff all the time that we're allergic to. You're not supposed to eat. Wheat, grains, sugars, processed foods, cheeses, dairy, certain meats, certain even spicy foods eaten in the wrong way. It causes allergic reactions and nobody gets it. Although the spicy foods are kind of helpful for that. But it is what it is, and you kind of got to know how to do it properly. As cayenne from outside, these are the hottest peppers you can find. And people who overdo that, they burn their stomach out, they develop ulcers, all this stuff. You don't want to do that. That's not how it's for. That's not what it's for. So yeah, but yeah, that mucosal response and all that means there's something happening. And hives or itchiness, all that stuff, skin problems, that's related to the liver, and it's because of a lot of times eating the wheat and the stuff that feeds the fungal infections. It causes these outbreaks and the leaky gut syndrome and all this stuff that messes up the blood, throws off the balance, and relates to disease, relates to disorders. And so it's all connected. It's all a big map. The body's a big map for your mind and your spirit, basically your soul and your interactions in life. Your body is the canvas, is the result of all the strokes of the art of the decisions and choices you've made and things you've eaten throughout history, throughout all of your life. And even then, the genetics that your body relies on, the blueprint, is that for all of history through time, thousands of hundreds of thousands of years. So it's all connected. You know, you have to. It's all connected. We can't really get away from that, only by treating it properly And there are two methods. Some will go technology, some will go the organic way of treating it properly. Those that go technology do whatever they want and use technology to mitigate that. Those that treat it properly will not use technology, or maybe in some point they will, but they will not have to, because their organic blueprint, their record of what they've done will reflect what they want for themselves, and they won't have to alter that in any way just because they've felt the response and they're basically treating it properly. And some will say that it's a trick to have to filter our choices through the body, that the body then decides for us and we're not free to do what we really want. I don't feel that way. I can see how others will and be like, you know, it's a matrix trap, we gotta use technology and then you can do whatever you want, but the truth is I don't really want much. So it's like, technically it would be either way for me. If you want to live off of a farm and eat just the plants and stuff, or if you want to do whatever you want to do and then use technology to beam the toxins out of your system, you know, whichever you do, it's just as what each one creates a different type of world. Imagine if everybody's doing it that way, or if everybody's doing it that way. And so maybe we can get a mix in this reality where we're at a balance and you can choose which way you want to go, and you don't have to make the world this way or make the world primarily that way. Humans, strange, and non-humans as well, strange. Maybe stranger, maybe more accurate, maybe less accurate. I don't know. We'll see. All right. Before it continues any further, thank you, and shout out to Sacred Serpent, not Serpent Seed. I wanted to add to this, which I don't know if this is necessary, but what we call crying is a direct outpouring or expression of your emotions. It's a direct connection in the body's sense of your mind to basically the soul. I think crying is soul raining. It's, you know, similar to laughing. It's the same thing. These expressions, it's like an orgasm or even a defecation in a sense, but instead of being connected to your biology, they're purely for the sense of feeling. You're not cleaning your eyes, and you're not cleaning your throat and your lungs by laughing. It's for something else. It's for a higher purpose. And so, you know, really connecting with yourself in that sense is pretty much what I'm hinting at here, what I'm talking about, and what seems to be a marker or like an avenue of the results, the healing connected to the fasting and getting in touch with this source within us, meaning literally your nerves and things like that. And so I just wanted to add that because I wanted to drive it home and make it very apparent. All right, so thank you.